Everyone has had that toy that was near and dear to them in their youth, and in some people's cases, it becomes an important piece from their timeline that they still hold on to. As previously mentioned on this channel, Armada is what got me into Transformers, and the one figure that put me in that moment of awe from childhood to adulthood to see it get a mostly great update 2 decades later was Armada Optimus, and I'm still glad to have him in my collection, base mode and lack of spark plug notwithstanding. Either way, the point remains. Nostalgia can play a key importance in life, and it's something that shouldn't be ignored. Look no further than Studio Series 86, Optimus Prime. While we can thank Japan for birthing the toy line of Diaclone amongst other brands with similar transforming robots to make Transformers possible, there's no denying that Optimus Prime has been one of the most popular figures during the rise of the popularity of the IP itself. Even if the figures weren't one-to-one exactly what we see in the cartoon, the toys still left a huge impact amongst other 80s titans that dominated children's television. And while there are a handful of instances that got the concept of having that character who transforms look exactly like how they did on screen, mainly from Masterpiece and some third-party companies, Hasbro has come a long way to meeting that quota. So for the 40 years of Transformers, they went all out on the leader of the Autobots himself. And for those wondering where I got my copy from, Hasbro Pulse. There you go. And it's also worth pointing out that this box, at least 2 angles of it, are beautiful. The front invoking the most badass part of the film Optimus has done, including the pose, and the right side that recreates what happened seconds prior. Everything else, not so much. Though I do like how the top has both the logo invoking the source material that this figure is based off of, as well as the figure itself in truck mode launching from the ground just like in the film. And out of the box, Optimus Prime himself is so much more breathtaking in person than the leaked photos made him out to be. Almost every single detail that's on the animation model is on here. Long gone are the silver thighs and crotch, and instead having the more accurate white. And the fact the Autobot symbol isn't a traditional stock one that's just printed on multiple characters is also a welcoming inclusion. And the fact the silver isn't as bombastic as other figures of the classic G1 design is also a great touch, and only needed in the right places. While I would have liked the silver to be on the face and the crest, the gray paint does a serviceable job at keeping that perfect balance as to what not to paint silver. And I'm sure that because the abs are also painted gray, would have made it a bit jarring to the overall look if they went for a full silver instead. And at first, I was a bit thrown off by the gray toes as to why they're there, but that's also animation accurate. Oh no, the Mandela effect. But the 2 issues people do have with the figure would be the size of the backpack, which doesn't bother me that much to be honest, and the biggest QC ever everyone and their grandmother have complained about, the heels. Though the latter is such a small detail that it's not really worth complaining about. So calm your fucking tits, Karen. Also, don't give this figure to bootleg Filthy Frank because of the back kibble. Just saying. The only thing that I do find distracting though are the 2 different red plastics used to hold the figure together. I'm sure there's a reason as to why it's there, maybe for tolerance issues, I don't know, but it's more of a nitpick than anything. Other than that, the figure is definitely the character IRL, but in toy form. Also not something for 8-year-olds, but we'll get more into that later. The articulation definitely gives this figure a lot of possibilities to pose him however you wish in most cases. The head is on a ball joint but doesn't go up or down all that much unfortunately. The arms rotate all the way around, go in and out, bend 90 degrees at the elbow, full rotation at the bicep, the smokestacks do a full rotation as well to make sure nothing breaks, the wrists swivel, and the finger has an index finger that can point outward by itself, while the others are stuck together. And before I forget, forward and back butterfly joints on the shoulder. There's also full waist rotation, the legs can go in and out, forward and back as do the front and the back skirt pieces along with it, bend a little over 90 degrees at the knee, rotate at the thigh, the feet point downward, and the ankle tilt is wild. So overall, posability is mostly great. I say mostly great because it would have been great to see a double jointed elbow, but I digress. For what you can do, it's still great for what it is. Another complaint I have would be the size of the fingers. Unlike figures like MP10, the 3 fingers stuck together are perfectly proportioned as is. But the index finger in comparison, it looks too meaty. I mean, I'm sure there will be a third-party kit to rectify this mistake, but as it is, it looks unsettling in hand. Anyways, moving on to the accessories. And what is Optimus supposed to be without his matrix of leadership? It's hard to get mine now, but my method is to look for these small grooves under his window boobs. Pull that out, and you can open his chest as he did in the series as well as in the film. And I know the matrix isn't something new, and the chamber to mount it is unpainted unfortunately, but I can paint the matrix chamber no problem. And while I don't own any other figure that has the same matrix as this unfortunately, I will say MP10's matrix looks a lot better in his hands. As for the trailer, it's now gone for a more animation accurate gray, rather than the usual flashy, colorful silver, white, and blue that most toy trailers do. In context to the film, it's best they left it like this. But hey, if you want to use your Toy Hacks decals, you can do that if you want to. Opening the trailer is similar to the G1 toy with a few extra steps. Flip out the kickstand like I just did. Flip the side legs out from underneath, rotate the feet downwards, flip the garage doors down, that doubles as a ramp, split the trailer in half, and you'll see that it'll mount roller in silver rather than the toy accurate blue. And you also get the repair drone as usual, and a handful of other accessories. He comes with his signature ion blaster that's painted in a nice gunmetal gray, as well as 2 bluish effects specifically designed for the character. Sorry for stealing your thing, Amgo. The one of mine came out very derpy, but thanks to using my heat gun, I strained the effect out and it looks miles better than how it did out of the box. It definitely added less stress to me by saving 1 email to Hasbro. And he also comes with his Energon axe, which goes on either hand via flipping it around and exposing a port, although I'm more of a fan of the sliding mechanism personally, just like how MP1 did as well as on the animation. But this isn't a bad method either. Oh yeah, the drone can also do the traditional arm things and have the effect parts be used as well, so huzzah for play value. And you can also mount it on top of Roller too, for even more play value, so huzzah to that as well. And finally, if you untab the back grill plate thing and open this part from underneath, you'll get the effect parts for truck mode. But more on those later. So for accessories, he's essentially what MP44 should have been without throwing a shit ton of shit in your face. Seriously, 100 versus 500 bucks. Like, why? Remember when I said earlier that this figure isn't worth being in the hands of an 8-year-old? Well, the transformation is a bit complex for something that isn't even a part of the Masterpiece line, and I highly recommend taking as much time as you can while transforming him to his truck mode and back. But at the same time, it's not as cumbersome as a Masterpiece figure normally is. And I also think it's a smart move that they made the smokestacks rotate so nothing gets in the way of things and you don't break anything. Me personally, I would have liked for them to be made out of die-cast metal for extra durability, but I guess anything goes. And in truck mode, Optimus still looks great. Even with the different shades of red showing up, but it's more of something that you'll notice up close at the roof of the cab. And for those wondering about the stress marks to rotate the head, that's unfortunately how it came out of the box, so I'm gonna be extra careful here. But in terms of an overall appearance, he's what you'd expect from a normal flat-nosed semi. One thing I do like in regards to the transformation is how they pulled an MP10 where you can take the front of the shins to fold them inwards, and you make things tab into place better on the legs. I mean, the truck mode itself still looks mostly clean, with the exception of this gap on the back, but still gives the overall aesthetic that this is a truck with nothing showing, until you flip to look at the underside or eyeball said gap, but since this is the idea of a transforming robot, I'll give it a pass. Though he rolls as you would expect from a truck, and even with the trailer attached, he's got a great turning radius. But that's not what you're here for. You're here for these. It's as simple as lining them up properly to make sure the parts are facing inward, and now, you have your product shot. In all seriousness, whether or not you choose to display him in truck mode like this, still makes it a worthy addition of what comes out of the box. I can almost imagine this feeling like a Toy Story scenario where he's charging at me and kicking my ass as he did to a lot of the Decepticons in the film. Compared to MP10 in truck mode at least, one actually has a little more realism to it, while the other one is... oh, it's just so good. Another complaint I do have is while Roller does have these rectangular gaps in there to make him stay secure by the repair drone, it's unfortunately not a fairly secure point, so I let him roam around freely rather than just rattle him around in the trailer and such. And one more thing before I share my thesis, Roller can tow his trailer too. それは綺麗です. Overall, while I still hold true to my love for Armada and said Optimus was my favorite figure that I own, I will take off the nostalgia goggles and be real that he's not a 100% perfect figure, but in reality, no figure is without its flaws, even if they're minor. And while everyone has praised this as well as Missing Link Convoy, myself included with the former, I can safely say he's my favorite Transformers figure in my collection to date. While MP10 is my most special. This figure is what MP44 should have been. Properly priced, not throw a bunch of accessories at your face, and just overall fun. I mean, there are the QC issues and some areas do make it a bit distracting of an experience when looking at it up close, and Hasbro going out of their way to make sure this figure still carries some of the series-specific accessories that didn't appear in the film makes it even more enjoyable in its own right. If you haven't picked him up yet, I highly encourage you to do so, as he's worth the $90 before tax. I know I said 100, but fuck it. Just be cautious and take your time with everything like I mentioned earlier. Good thing I got a spare one just in case if one craps out on me. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys next time. じゃあな。